No, there we go. Sounds back. Sorry about that. I had some technical issues trying to get set up for the other thing, as you probably saw. So I had to kill the stream to try and use this camera. It didn't use this. It was just all of a disaster, and I was trying to get it going. Hey, Pelicans took Kyra Lewis Jr. out of Alabama. That is awesome. Roll Tide. There we go. You want to show them what you're wearing?
I'm good.
Okay. My girlfriend, whose dad played football for Alabama, is in an Amari Cooper jersey because her last name is Cooper too. So.
And my birthday's tonight.
And Andrew's birthday's tonight. So, Lewis Jr. out of Alabama. I think this is exactly the right fit for the Pelicans, the highest upside player they could have taken. This makes a ton of sense. Let me just tweet out this link, everybody, but I am here. What are your thoughts on the pick? Let's see it in the chat. Okay, there we go. Yes, best player available and kind of fits what they need. I was just on with Chad Ford, which was really freaking cool to do. And he said this was the highest guy he had on his board of left. This was one of the guys that he thought has one of the higher ceilings here and fits. Do you think he gets minutes this year barring injuries? Yeah, he's probably a 10-minute player right now. There's a lot of guard depth on New Orleans. You've got Lonzo Ball. You've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and there's a lot of overlap between Kyra Lewis Jr. and Nickeil Alexander-Walker in this draft, or in those two players. So because of that, I do think it maybe limits some of the minutes that he's going to play. The good news is that's fine. He doesn't need to play a lot of minutes. And you know what? With no training camp, or these guys are playing NBA games in 34 days from tonight. There's not a lot of time. They don't have summer league. They don't have a summer to work with coaches and, kind of get given a regimen and stuff like that to do. These rookies are not going to be impactful in the NBA this season. This is likely going to be the worst rookie class we've seen in a really long time because of that. So, don't have high expectations for him, but he's young. He is really, it's going to just kind of make a lot of sense. It's going to take a little bit for him to come along, but he can give you some spot minutes this season, I think. And so that, I think, is perfectly fine for them. All right, let me catch up on some of this because now I'm behind. Who did the Grizzlies take? Yeah, Lewis is super explosive and a really good finisher. You're missing that with Lonzo Ball in the backcourt. He is not aggressive. He doesn't kind of attack the rim and do all of that. You need a guy like that because Lonzo is not giving it to you. He can get to the rim, he can finish at the rim, and he can draw fouls. And when you have a guy like Zion Williamson, yes, that is exactly what you want. You're going to be in the bonus a bunch. Get a guard who takes advantage of that. Naismith to Boston, okay. Who went? Oh, pick is in for Orlando. I'm going to just find out in real time here. Next season, Jackson Hayes is going to have more impact than Lewis Jr. I'm pulling up a few other things here as I chat with you all. So Naismith is better from the outside shooting, but I don't think you just want to draft a three-point specialist, which is what I think Naismith will be. He will be slightly above average overall, but I don't think he's honestly going to be that great of an NBA player. So because of that, I don't want him to, I wouldn't have taken him there. That would have been a position that I would not have liked. Let's see. Cole Anthony. Ooh, so I was not high on Cole Anthony. I know some people were. He was not a guy that I was very high on, but it kind of makes, I think, a little bit of sense. But Kyra Lewis Jr., I think, is going to be a very good NBA player, and he does have one of the higher ceilings. There's some bust potential there if he's not able to finish around the rim. That is going to be a bit of a problem. What are my thoughts on the rumors of the Pelicans getting Aaron Baines? 2 thumbs up to that. I really do like it. Jason, I thought the idea of trades going into this were going to be overrated. I actually thought the idea of a ton of trades around free agency was a little overrated too. And if you all listened to the podcast I did talking about how this season is going to look, I don't think a lot of teams are going to get crazy with their rosters right now. You just don't have that much time to integrate new players. I think the trade deadline, usually what you see is there's a bunch of trades, things really quiet down, and the trade deadline, it goes from like 0 to 60. You're not going to see that this year. You're going to see what would be the equivalent of like December trades in a normal NBA season. You don't ever see trades in December. You're going to see that be the equivalent of it this year, trades in January and early February, because once teams get into the year and realize what's working and what isn't, that's when they are going to start to realize they need to make roster changes. But because of the lack of practice time, you're going to have 3 preseason games. You're going to have 2 weeks of training camp. Run it back with the team you had last year so there's at least some continuity. And I think that's going to be really important. And it's why I think these rookies are going to struggle. No summer league, no anything like that. That's not going to be a great thing. Desmond Bane, who they're talking about right now, who has an awesome name. Bane is a good name in general as a Batman person. Yeah, Desmond's good too. That I think is a guy that they could look at for 24. I think they move on from Lonzo Ball, a point guard that can't drive with a weird shot. His shot's good now. Like, I trust his shot. But he needs to get more aggressive. And part of the reason they picked Kira Lewis Jr. because they need him to be more aggressive. And they need some aggression in the backcourt. He will do that. That dude wants to attack the basket. Huh? No, tell me. I didn't hear what you said. Cole Anthony? You saw someone else?
Just saw like people that are there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It matches the North Carolina colors, kind of the magic blue.
Yeah, I like
A little bit. How effective will the Pelicans be in the half court if our future, that's in quotes, is Lonzo or Kyra? Both excel in transition. I think Kyra can be good in transition or in the half court. That aggression I think is there. He creates for others, not so much with the creative passing in the backcourt that Lonzo Ball does, but because he drives, he forces a defender to rotate over, and then he kicks it out to him. It's a lot of kickouts. He can do it with both hands, which I think has been really good for him. So when he drives and you have guys in the short corners, he gets the ball to them. Oh, is Spike Lee at Cole Anthony? Is that what you thought? Yeah, okay.
I was like, I'm not sure, but the glasses and the hat looked a little bit like Spike Lee.
Okay, so Spike Lee is there. That's actually kind of cool.
I thought I was just eating things.
Okay. Hold on. I'm like reacting to text messages, trying to jump and do a whole bunch of different things at once. Give me 1 second here. So one of my good friends just texted me being like, you had Bay and Naismith there. How come they didn't draft him? Because Kira Lewis Jr. has a higher upside and a higher ceiling than both of those guys. I like Bay a lot. I really, really do. But his ceiling is not nearly as high as Kira Lewis Jr.'s is. Hold on. I can only multitask so much here. Oh, he's balling. Oh, these moments are like very nice. I always love these kind of things.
I'm really glad we get to see these.
It's Bane, but yeah, he could easily be there at 24. At that point, I wonder what New Orleans will do. Wait, what did they say about Poku? Is he going 17? And that pick's being traded, right? To the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think. So it's now the Thunder who are drafting Poku at 17. God, we're also almost up to the Pelicans pick at 24. Like, this is happening kind of fast. Yeah. Poku could have been very good, I think, for New Orleans. And he's a bit of a developmental guy, but you like a lot of what he does. But, oh, man, does he really need to put on some weight. Yeah, Carlos says it right. I think you do really trust the overall the front office and what they're doing here. The fact that they took Kira Lewis Jr. with maybe safer picks in Naismith and Bay at 13 they have a very clear strategy on what they're doing, and I think this works well, particularly for a small market. Bane and Bane exterminating. Yeah, I kind of like it. Now, I do like Desmond Bane at 24. There are a couple of other guys I think they could look at. The fact that they got a guard at 13 maybe affects that some way. I also wonder if they might really look to trade the 24th pick for something else and move on from that based on what they are kind of having here. All right, Oklahoma City, yeah, Pokusevski there. Okay.
Who could they trade 24 to?
That is a very good question, and I do not know. I would easily trade 24 for a future first. Like, if someone wanted to give me a lottery protected first in next year's draft, I'd fucking kick this. I shouldn't try and swear that much. I'd kick this can down the road a year. I don't think anyone you're going to get at 24 has that much upside, or anyone I like that much.
Who has a lottery protected first?
Oh, so they could give it as a lottery protected first. Like, you could trade that pick, and they'd be like, you don't get it if it's these sorts of things.
That's cool. Oh.
One thing to keep in mind, okay, so one thing to keep in mind with the kind of like the glut of guards that they have now is all these guys aren't going to be on the roster in the future. Keep that in mind. Like, this team with all of these picks, with all of these other things that they've got going on, are not going to consistently, remain in New Orleans, I think. So a guy like Nikhil, as much as we might like him, easily could be on the move if it means you get someone better and you need to package some picks with it and you need some salary and to include a younger guy in all of this. So Woj probably has someone that tweets for him is what I would hire. Like, the quickest tweeter, give it to Woj, have him tell them whatever it is, and then be like, hey, I think they could. You could easily move up from 24 with a second round pick or another second round pick to kind of move up and get a guy that you like. I wouldn't be shocked with that. It also looks like a guy like Sadiq Bey could fall to 24, and I think that would be fine too.
That'd be kind of awesome for us, wouldn't it?
Do you think you got me another ice cube?
Okay. Would you like some more bourbon?
I'm going to pour another one, yeah. And then maybe slow down. Thank you, babe. Yeah, Bey seems to be slipping. Part of it is his ceiling is somewhat low. Like, I do think that his ceiling is kind of low here. His floor is very high. Bey is going to be a solid role player for a number of years in the NBA. I have no doubt about that. I've seen the concern that he was kind of the focal point at Villanova, and if he's not the focal point, how does it look? I think it's perfectly going to be fine. Josh Green to Dallas. That was a guy that I had kind of targeted for New Orleans at... Thank you guys for keeping me informed on everything here, too. It's like I can't look over there, here, and then here. Bust potential on Anthony Edwards, high or higher? Just high. I actually think he's going to be a very solid player. I'm not that worried about him. At least being like a role player in the NBA, which is not what you want at the, whatever it is, overall pick. All right, trade up for Bey now. I would love to trade up for Bey now. Let me grab this as I pour a drink. That might have been too much that I just poured in there to some degree. Whoops. Whatever. That's probably a Pelicans email about a press conference for Kyra Lewis Jr. at some point. I'm going to stay on with you guys instead. Wait, is that actually the pick? Landry Shamet to the Nets for 19? That's a really good pick. I love that for the Nets. Like, I absolutely love that for the Nets. That is a great trade for the Nets. Like, that is an unbelievable trade for the Nets. I don't know.
That looks like a house in Greece.
Did they just say James Bond too?
They did.
Wait. The Clippers are sending 19 to Brooklyn to the Pistons and receiving Luke. That's a little confusing. I'm trying to kind of make sense of this trade that just happened. So Clippers basically it's Landry Shamet for Luke Kennard. I actually like Luke Kennard a lot. So I think that makes a little bit more sense. I think the Nets come out ahead of everything in that trade, though. That is a really good deal for them. I think he's young. He can be really good. And you pair a cheap guy like that with the Nets, who are in a bit of precocious salary cap situation. I love that for the Nets. I actually like it I kind of like that trade overall. That's kind of good. I really just like that trade for all three teams. Detroit gets a pick. They need more young talent on that. Clippers get more of a wing type of player. And then the Nets get a young three-point shooter that's probably going to replace Joe Harris.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah, that is the rare win-win-win trade for everybody. I kind of dig that. Okay. Yeah, that was really good. I'd rather have no. So I don't mind Tyler Bey either. I do like Saddiq Bey more. I think he's a better defender. I think he's going to be able to defend pretty well at the NBA level, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so high on him. Saddiq Bey is the prototypical 3-and-D small forward that you can find in the league. That is a useful player to have on the wing, even if he is a role player for you and not a starter. At this point, I wouldn't really trade up. If you just don't want to have 2 second-round picks on the roster, if there's no draft and stash guy that you want, yeah, use one of those picks to try and move up. That's the only reason. I don't think you really trade up because you fall in love with a guy at this point. I would be happy to trade the 24th overall pick to someone else for a future pick. No problem with that. I don't know if the Pelicans can unload Drew Bledsoe. Ooh, that dates me a little bit. Eric Bledsoe. Yeah, it's a lot of things, right? I think that is kind of why, with some of these guys, Bledsoe is probably going to be there. I don't think he has a ton of value around the league. I don't think that he is a huge drop-off from Drew Holiday. He's a drop-off from Drew Holiday. I don't think it's a massive chasm there. And I think he can potentially be a starter for you. So I think New Orleans, who are still looking to get into the playoffs after trading Drew Holiday and get in at that 10th spot, is fine rolling into the season with Eric Bledsoe on the team. And we'll see kind of how this goes now. I'm kind of excited about this. I do really like Saddiq Bey. I will say that. I like him more than Tyler Bey. I do think Tyler Bey is also a very good defender. I don't think he's at the level of Saddiq Bey, though. And I do give a bit of benefit of the doubt, maybe bonus points to Villanova players. I also give them to Kentucky players as well. At this point, you don't need Tyrese Maxey, but he was a guy I was pretty high on going into tonight, too. I would have been happy with Kyra Lewis Jr. or Tyrese Maxey, depending on where he goes.
He's from Kentucky.
He is from Kentucky. I also think he could easily end up at the Miami Heat, who are picking in just a moment or two. I don't think Bledsoe's defense can be an anchor. I think he is just a very good, solid defender. I don't think the one thing that's going to prevent him from being an elite defender is he lacks a lot of that elite athleticism that you want. But as a 5th guy on your team, a 4th guy on your team at 24, that's great. I think that is a wonderful thing to potentially have at that spot. It might have been a little bit high to draft him at 13. I will give people that. But that's also a good player. So, Precious, I don't know how to really pronounce his last name. I have the pronunciation guide. Let me pull that up. But the power forward from Memphis, there we go. He's not enough of a floor spacer. And I think that's really is what you're looking for with a guy like that. Don't see how it would work. Just no minutes for the youngins if you're keeping Bledsoe and Hill. Nikhil and Lewis are going to be spending all the year in the G League. I think that might be part of the plan for Lewis Jr. I really do think that. I think that, they probably don't want to give him a ton of minutes right away. As I've said, these rookies are going to really, really struggle this year. No summer league. You don't have an off-season working with coaches. You're coming into training camp, and then the season starts in 2 weeks. Think about it for a second. The bong rips, it's just a hookah. It is not an actual bong. You can probably hear some of the noise there, though. But no, it is not weed or anything like that. But I was wondering if someone was going to catch that at some point. So no, I just drink a lot. That's it. And so it was funny. So with these rookies, they're just not going to be able to contribute right away because of that. It's literally 2 weeks and then the season starts. Those guys aren't going to be ready, like at all. And if you're Stan Van Gundy and the training staff, are you working with Kyra Lewis Jr.? No, I promise it is, but whatever. You guys won't believe me on this. So for Kyra Lewis Jr., you're not going to work with him as much. You're going to be working with Lonzo Ball. You're going to be working with the starters, the guys who are going to get heavy minutes from you. These guys might fall by the wayside just a little bit because of the lack of time you have to prepare for the year. And so I would not expect much out of this rookie class. I've said this a bunch before. It's a legitimate thing that I do think this rookie class is going to struggle because of that. If
34 days is like no time.
It's no time. No time at all. These guys will be in the facility in the next 2 or 3 days and working with coaches. It's just not enough time to get a rookie up to speed, let alone a rookie that hasn't played meaningful basketball for 9, 10 months. That's going to be a big problem for these guys. So I don't know if... Oh, Detroit, why are you wrecking things for us here?
Who'd they take?
Sadiq Bey. Bay to Detroit. That's a good pick for him. Again, I'm high on him. I think his floor is really high. Really high. Ceiling, not so much, but the floor, you know what? That's a solid player. I don't have a Chua. Okay, thank you. Look, I think he's fine. Like, I just don't think he has enough shooting. At a certain point, though, it becomes about value. And it's just, a lot of it with this point in the draft is, who do you like? What's your own personal draft board? And that's kind of how it's going to be. This is where they're getting to the point where there aren't exactly a ton of bigs that I love. We saw Isaiah Stewart went, right? Yeah, Detroit is having a good draft, and they're getting a lot of value, and I like that. For that. Again, it is rye, not bourbon tonight, but similar to all of this. I was hoping that Jalen Smith might be here at 24 for the Pelicans. Not the case. So we will see. Like, don't rule out a guy like Jaden McDaniels out of Washington just to get a wing in that's got a decent enough three-point shot. I'm very big on three-point shots because the Pelicans are going to need some more of that. But I would not be shocked if New Orleans is really looking to try and move this pick and hopefully try and maybe move some of this. This is a really good draft for Detroit. Right now, I think the Kings with Halliburton at 12 and the Detroit Pistons, who need an injection of youth, could really do it. McDaniels is a guy I haven't looked at a ton, to be perfectly honest, because I was not really expecting the draft to go this way, which is fine. I think he's fine. He's young enough, I think. He's going to give you enough three-point shooting. I could not tell you enough about his defense, really, but I don't think he's going to be a net negative in that regard. I don't think he's going to be an amazing defender by any means. He might just be a neutral in that side of things, which, you know what? It's not a terrible thing to have, right? So I think it'd be fine. Like, I wouldn't have too much, very many high hopes for the 24th overall pick in a weaker draft. I think you tend to look at guards at this point in the draft is where there's maybe some value if that's what you're looking for. But overall, no. I mean, this is where a guy like Tyler Bay could start to come into play. And I think he makes a lot of sense. And frankly, if I were New Orleans, he'd be who's highest on my board right now. I like the other Bay better than him. But I definitely think Tyler Bay right here would make a good bit of sense. His floor is high enough. His ceiling is fairly low to me because partially his age. He's going to turn 23, I think, during the season. I definitely think Bane would be a guy that they're going to look at here. That's one of the better shooters around this pick. I think his shot's really going to translate to the NBA. But his age scares me. He's 22 going into the season. That's not a great thing in terms of what you want. But he's going to be close to a 40% shooter Desmond Bane will be in the NBA, which You can get that value at 24. Like, sure, why not? Why do we have 5 point guards under contract? We need wings and bigs and can play and rebound. Very much, they do need that. But also, you do not want to draft for need, at least not at 13. You can make that argument maybe a little bit better at 24. But no, I don't think that's the direction that you really want to go with that early. You want to take just the highest ceiling guy. Who's going to be the best player in 3 years? It's probably Kyra Lewis Jr. And so I think it was the right pick for the Pelicans. As much as I like Saddiq Bey, and I really do, I have no problem with that pick. And the more that I watched Kyra Lewis Jr. out of Alabama, yeah, it made a lot of sense to me that that's the direction they want. And when you look at his fit in the backcourt with Lonzo Ball, it works. They're going to complement each other really well. The other thing is, they're not going to keep all these guys. Maybe Lonzo Ball's on the move. Maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker is on the move. Maybe you swing a trade for a superstar and you need to include Kyra Lewis Jr. in it, like they did with Buddy Hield and DeMarcus Cousins. You know, sometimes you're not going to keep all of these guys. So the Pelicans are still going through some asset accumulation mode right now where you just want to have the most value possible. It's not exciting in terms of on-court stuff. You know, value doesn't win you basketball games, right? It doesn't get you into the playoffs. But you also only need to get into the 10th seed to have a chance. And if you're 10, you just need to win 2 more games. Doable?
They're also looking forward.
Thank you.
They're looking forward. This isn't an immediate, result-oriented team right now.
One of these ways. Yeah, this is about building a long-term sustainable winner. It is not about this coming season. It is about long-term thinking, too, for the team. If you can straddle the line with both, that's maybe great. But I think they're thinking more long-term than short-term. They want to be competitive next season. I think they'd like to push for the 10th spot and the play-in tournament. And wouldn't that be pretty fun? But I don't think it's like, oh, let's mortgage assets to get swept in the first round. It's nice. I'd like to get into the playoffs. Very much so would like to get in. And I think there's a lot of value in pushing for that. But at a certain point, you don't want to give up too much for all of that. Kyra Lewis Jr. said he tries to pattern his game after De'Aaron Fox and Lou Williams.
Cool.
Sign me up for that.
How do you feel about Trey Jones from Duke?
I don't know what that was that I just got onto my phone, but okay. All right, so this screams Tyrese Maxey to me for the Heat. No, it's not. Okay.
I would have thought the same thing.
Tyrese Maxey seemed to make a lot of sense to me for them.
Yeah. I would have loved him there.
But, okay.
Oh, well.
You should be a big De'Aaron Fox fan. I'm going to be so annoyed if it's 24 and Tyrese Maxey's still there because, I'm going to kind of want the Pelicans to draft him, but, you're really going to, really have to kind of make the logic work on that one, and I don't think anyone's really going to like it, but again, it's asset accumulation mode, and I do think that he could be I think Tyrese Maxey's going to be a really good player in the NBA. I really, really do. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is amazing. Miami thinks their pick at 20 is too precious for words. I don't know if I can ban people from the chat here. I wouldn't do it for that comment, though. That was actually pretty good. I'll give you that. Okay. I'm going to be curious to see how some of the rest of this goes now. I'm getting I don't know what's happening to my phone right now, but okay. I don't know. I'm getting spam texts that have to do with Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat on my phone. So we will see. Oh no, you guys can make all of the puns in the chat here. Go for it. Have some fun. It's draft night. We're enjoying ourselves. It's not nearly as crazy as we thought it was going to be. So we need to make up for it in the chat here, I think. All right, who's up next? It is Philadelphia. They could take Maxey. Maxey goes in some of these next picks, I think. TJ Ford, Kyra Lewis Jr. Yeah, I can see that a little bit. All right, I'm curious to see. Oh, we already know who they're taking. I'm like behind. I'm a little lost and confused on things here.
Stop it.
Okay.
So cool.
Yeah, so again, I do think that Kyra Lewis Jr. with his aggression makes a lot of sense. I like a guy that's going to drive. What did we yell at Lonzo Ball for not doing? What frustrated us about Lonzo Ball? Please make all... Please... It's the bourbon talking, right? No, Kyra Lewis Jr., he's aggressive. You don't get that in Lonzo Ball. I don't trust Lonzo Ball to figure that out either. It's his fourth year going into the league now. Usually you kind of know what these players are and have some thoughts on them and kind of see what they are. I don't know if you're going to see him change the way he plays. It probably just isn't in him for better or worse. But if you get a guard that complements him in Kyra Lewis Jr., yeah, that fits a lot. They can complement each other in the backcourt. I'd love to combine them into one guard. It would be really, really good. But no, I don't think we're going to really kind of get that here. On Udoka, I don't have enough thoughts on him. I'm not going to pretend like I know absolutely everyone really well in this draft. I tend to focus on guys around the Pelicans. Let me ask you, okay, so that's a good question here. Lonzo needs to be traded before he has no value. What do you all think about Lonzo Ball? Are you in favor of trading him? Do you want to give him more time? What do you think that it's going to be with him going forward?
How much more time?
That's a good... You only have a year with him more.
Yeah, how much more time?
You don't have a ton more time with him. That is a very, very good point. So that is a good question. All right, let's see what this next pick might be. Philadelphia taking Maxey. Yep, that's a good pick for them. That's a really, really good pick for him. At that point, it's pure value. Keep Lonzo, 100%. Trade Lonzo. Yeah, like, so here's the other thing. Yes, Eric Bledsoe is under contract. Eric Bledsoe is not a long-term piece. You know, you might keep him for a season, if that. And at that point, you're gunning for the 10th spot, that's fine. Well, you also only have, as Britt said here, another year with him. He's a restricted free agent next year. Are any of you comfortable if he gives you just a little bit more than he gave last season? Are you comfortable signing him in restricted free agency to a bigger contract? I don't know about that. I don't feel that comfortable about that.
Do you think he has a good enough symbiosis with Brandon Ingram to make it worthwhile?
Ball?
Yeah.
Ball is just a really tough guy to evaluate. On the right team, he has a lot of value. If he cuts back on some of those step-back threes, there's a ton of value there. If he doesn't and takes ill-advised threes, it's not good. In the half court, he's a court spacer. He's not a point guard. He's a guy that stands on the three-point line above the break and spaces the court for you. And he's good enough at this point that he definitely demands that someone guard him out there. And so there's value in that. Is there value at that at a 4-year max deal? Oh, hell no. And that's a big part of the problem. He's going to want a lot of money. $17 million for him is way too much. Way too much. You could sell me on 10. You could sell me on 12. But I don't know if that... It's just tough. I don't know if he'll get some of those things in there. I hope we can get a center with the Eric Bledsoe trade. Maybe. I don't think that Eric Bledsoe has high value around the league. I don't think you just give up on him, and I think you try and rehab some of the trade value with him. But I don't think he has a ton of value around the league. So there's a name in here that I really like. And you mentioned Robert Woodard II out of Mississippi State. Small forward. I like him in the second round more than I'd like him at 24 in terms of value. But that is a wing guy that I do think can be pretty good. He's going to have a good enough three-point shot. It's not consistent, It's not going to be in the high 30s, but he plays defense, he rebounds, and he attacks and can score at the rim. And I do think that he will space the court just enough. Woodard out of Mississippi State, yes. Like, it's a bit of a reach at 24, but at this point, you're kind of splitting hairs. If he's the highest guy on your board, he's the highest guy on your board. Like, whatever, who cares? I'm not going to kind of get upset about that. All right, Tyrese Maxey to Philadelphia. I love that. At this point, Maxey was a steal, and I would have taken him higher.
What about Trey Jones as a perimeter defender?
Huh?
What about Trey Jones as a perimeter defender?
Trey Jones?
Yeah.
Out of?
Kentucky.
He could be a little bit later, I think. I don't know enough about him to really kind of make a decision on that. You can only do so much scouting with all of this. Like, I think right now, let's see what's everyone saying. You guys are focusing on way too much the glut at guard. Stop it. Stop it. Exactly. There we go. I think all of the guards are placeholders until we get that upgrade at that position. That is exactly right. I think that is kind of exactly the way to look at it. You got to take a long-term approach at this. They are not looking to really figure. Exactly. You don't need everybody right now. Trey Jones was at Duke. Yes, thank you.
Not Kentucky. Same difference.
They're like the same damn thing. Come on now. So I think that, you'd like to look for some wing help right here, but Bubble Lonzo belongs in the G League. Yes. I definitely agree with Bubble Lonzo was bad and a big concern. I don't hate Spencer Tillman out of Michigan State. I think if you're looking for another big, that can make sense. I think trying to find the center is a really tough proposition for New Orleans in this draft because none of the ones here are great three-point shooters, and you have to have that. How bad was the spacing at times for Zion with Derek Favors? There we go. Do not disrespect my Blue Devils. You mean also your Pelicans too. So if you're going to get a center, you need to have some three-point shooting. You also need them to defend the rim. Like, it's not an easy proposition to kind of also find the right type of unicorn that you compare with Zion Williamson. It's really difficult to find that guy. Jalen Smith made some sense there. I don't think he was going to be as good of a defender at the NBA level as he was in college, but it could have made some sense. I don't know if you're going to find that guy in the draft right now. So I think right now, if you were to target like position of need, it's clearly the wing. And I think it's a guy like Tyler Bay, maybe Woodard out of Mississippi State. And those are the guys you're kind of looking at in this range. And at this point, maybe you don't really care about a reach if you just want to make sure that it's the guy that you like. You're all going to say Miles Turner in the chat. I know this. You're all going to start throwing Miles Turner in there. Enough. Yeah. At that money, no. I don't think he's as good of a three-point shooter as people make him out to be. I don't think he's as good of a defender as people make him out to be. He's fine, but I don't like paying him. What's he make? $20 million, right? Let me pull this up. I've got to. Where's my mouse? There it is. I have my monitors switched for how I normally have it, which does not make navigating between things really easy. Okay. See, there we go. Someone says, I don't think Miles Turner will pair with Zion. No, I think he's fine, but I do think I think people have fallen in love with him, and it's not quite what you want. You also need someone who's going to rebound. Defensive rebounding has been a big problem for New Orleans. Zion does not do it nearly enough. His rebounding numbers are inflated because of the offensive rebounds that he grabs. Miles Turner last year, 6.6 total rebounds per game. I'm not excited about that. Who's our starting center in game one? I do think it's probably going to be Derek Favors. It's probably going to be Favors. Sign him to a one-year deal, overpay him, and it's fine, and just kind of spin the wheels there till you figure out if it's Jackson Hayes or not. Miles Turner is making... it's just flat. He's making $18 million next season, the year after, and the year after that. 3 more years of Miles Turner at $18 million.
How much is Derek Favors paid?
Well, he's a free agent. So he'll probably get if you overpay him So, like, what would his contract be in free agency? He would be probably getting, like, on a 1-year deal, $15 million, which is a big overpay for him. But it's a 1-year deal. That, I think, is kind of the big thing. I also would not be shocked if they just say, screw it. Let's roll with Jackson Hayes. No, he's not under contract, but they have his bird rights. There's not a ton of money out there in the league for him. Like, I don't think Derek Favors is going to go to anyone with cap space. I don't know if you even really want to sign him for like the full mid-level exception, around $9 million or so a year for a long-term deal. If you give him a shorter deal, 1 year, you've got to overpay him on that 1 year to get him to agree to that. Since he's not getting the money over the long-term thing, at least get some of it up front on 1 year. So maybe instead of signing Derek Favors to a 3-year, $30 million deal, you sign him to a 1 year, $15 million deal, and at least get it off the books. Record the pod while on live tonight. Maybe we will. You guys don't need to see how many times I sometimes screw up takes on things. Yeah, Derek Favors got $18 million, and you didn't want to pay him that.
How old is he?
Favors?
Yeah.
He's like 30, 31. That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. He's been in the league for like 11 years. The problem is he's not court spacer. He was injured, and I don't think you've got like the full Derek Favors experience. I don't know if that would have necessarily been better.
Full favor?
The full Favors. Adams is probably his ceiling for who were we talking about there? So Hayes isn't a good defender or a rebounder yet. No, but he's shown some other things that I like out of him. He's shown some of the flashes in terms of passing that I think that he can show off, and I think that'll be a very good thing. Derek Favors is 29. That's like 30 or 31. We're rounding up here. That counts. All right, Denver's got their selection in. Okay, cool. I will be switching over to the Locked On Live show again at 24, but I'm going to keep this up and running. I won't need to kill the stream again because I figured out it's pulling from a different camera, which is super annoying, but whatever. So we'll keep this going. You guys I won't kick you off of it this time, and we'll keep going for a little bit after that. Maybe we'll do the show live. Maybe we'll just go right into Locked On Pels while we do this live, and maybe do a question segment, and I'll take some of your questions right there. We can show you how some of the sausage is made here. Steven Adams, okay, as a trade target, let me pull him up here because I don't know his contract off the top of my head. I mean, he's Aquaman. That's kind of cool. His tattoos are really good. He's a cool fucking looking dude. There's no doubt about that. I think y'all are crazy. You won't find the perfect big no, you won't. So that's probably a thing. I think Turner does some of those. I just don't think he does some of those things well enough, and that does scare me off of him a little bit. I always forget that Steven Adams is not like a 40-year-old man, and he's only 27 right now because he looks way older with some of that stuff. He's an expiring deal at 27. Yeah, you could sell me on Steven Adams next season. 1 year for basically 28 million, 27.5 million. Like, that doesn't... If you've got nothing else to use that money on and you don't have to give up much for him, you could sell me on that. Does he like bourbon? I don't know.
Are we in the luxury tax issue?
No. You're not worried about that. They won't worry about that. Pels need to sell hope. They do, and they're going to do it like 4 years down the line, and it's not easy to do all of that, I think. And that's a bit of a problem. I kind of like seeing them. Steven Adams is way better than Miles Turner. He's not going to space the court for you. His first made three ever came against New Orleans, I think? Is that what it was? Right? Didn't he hit that in a game and it was great? Steven Adams definitely likes steak. He probably likes, I feel like, hunt with a knife and stuff like that too.
Send him out to the bayou.
Yeah. AD isn't coming back here, that is for sure. AD is never leaving Los Angeles. I saw the report that several teams were interested in George Hill. I'd rather trade Bledsoe, keep George Hill, but if you have to move one of them, yeah, right? Steven Adams, only 27. It feels way more than that. He looks older than me, and you see gray in my beard here. It was the buzzer beater. He hit his first three ever, I think is what it was. And it was super annoying. No, I don't like RJ Hampton. I do not like RJ Hampton. I don't think he showed enough overseas. I'm not really surprised that he is falling, and that's not a guy that I really want. He doesn't get to the line. He's not a good three-point shooter. I want no part of RJ Hampton.
What does he bring to the table?
Not that.
Anything good?
Something's good, but not enough. Like, I think he can be a decent passer at times, and that is, let's see. Okay, that's not anything important. The Knicks have this pick, right? Yes, they do.
We're about to be on the clock in 3 minutes.
Yep. All right, so we getting Didi this year. Right now he's in Australia. We'll see if that changes. I think they want to kind of put him down there for another year. I thought you could see him back here in New Orleans this season, and I do think they are very, very high on him. I think partially with some of all of the guards that they have, they just don't need to right now, and I don't think they're going to be looking to rush him, and I think it's going to be they're going to give him another year of just getting minutes and playing time, and that's kind of what he needs. I don't think you can get Mitchell Robinson. I actually like Mitchell Robinson here. I just don't know if... I think New York would be really dumb to move on from him. Why do you think Griff and team haven't made any moves tonight? No one wants to trade into this draft. No one wants to trade into this draft, I think. That's why. So they would like to have maybe moved the 13th pick. I think they would have liked to maybe move on from the 24th pick, but I just don't know if teams really want to move up and try and grab some of the guys that are available right now for potentially future assets.
So not for lack of trying.
Yeah, I don't think it's for lack of trying. I just don't think, like, this is not I know everyone was like, oh, this season's going to be weird. No one has cap space, trades. Not right now. You don't want, like, if you're trading up in this draft, you're probably doing something wrong, especially this spot. Please, give me a top 15 protected pick for 24 right now. If it's 28 next season for the 24th pick in this draft, that is a win for New Orleans. The 28th pick in next draft is probably going to be better than the 24th pick in this one, even though they're picked later. No, we're never going to say Hassan Whiteside. We're never going to look for Hassan Whiteside. He's a guy I could not be like less high on and dislike more in the NBA. Good counting numbers. Tries only when he wants to, but they are so hollow. His blocks are hollow. You don't want a guy that swats shots out of bounds. They look emphatic. It's great on TV, but you want a guy that blocks shots to your teammates. Anthony Davis was amazing at this. Blocked it right to Drew Holiday. Blocked it or just corralled the whole thing himself. Second you block it out of bounds, they inbound it and they still have possession. It doesn't change it.
As a Heat fan, I can tell you I don't like Hassan Whiteside.
Dennis Al, yes, I agree with you. I do think 5 years from now, this class will be viewed as having a decent number of very good players. The problem is, they're only going to be good players. It's not going to be unbelievable players. It's not going to be steals or anything like that. And that, I think, is the big problem. I just got the alert. As soon as the Knicks pick goes in, we're going to switch over. Let me get that link for you all. And then we'll be right back here to talk about whatever the pick was. Let me get it. All right, this is... Oh, wrong button. Okay. Bomaro for the Knicks. That's fine. Like, that's not bad. That makes some sense there. I do not want the Pelicans to take RJ Hampton in this one. All right, we're going to switch over. Putting these in so I can answer that. I'm on a different camera, so that's good. We're going to this screen. So switch over. There's the link, and I'll be back with you all in like 3 minutes. All right, we're back. RJ Hampton to New Orleans, but not really, right? So that's great, because that is probably like one of the few guys I just really did not want at all here in New Orleans, and they are trading him to the Denver Nuggets. I don't know if we've seen what they're getting in return just yet, have we? All right. There you go. Future pick go. What did I say? What did I say? Trade the 24th overall pick for a future pick. Yes. Yes. Future pick. It doesn't matter what future pick it is. This is not a draft where at 24 you were getting great value and feeling really good about the player that New Orleans was going to take. RJ Hampton's a named player that fell. I was just on with Chad Ford, which was really cool. He said that Chad Ford was saying that he talked to a number of scouts around the league that thought RJ Hampton would have been exposed in college. I don't want that guy on this team. I don't want that guy on this team. It's going to be a top lottery protected first round pick. It's going to be the Denver pick next year if they're allowed to trade that. I think this seems pretty simple. Now, the only question left for New Orleans is, do they draft Skylar Mays, right? Hold on. Let me tweet something out. Denver loves their name players that fall. No, it's very true. Like, it's going to be a future lottery protected pick. Like, that's what it's going to be, right? Like, I don't think we need to look at this that much. All right, there we go. The anti-draft draft. Yeah, again, this isn't a good draft. You wanted to kick this can down the road. They wanted to move this pick. And we finally get that Denver Nuggets Pelicans trade we've all been waiting for. It just doesn't involve Drew Holiday. Nuggets don't owe any first, so it's likely going to be a lottery protected first next season. Hold on. What do we get in trade? A future pick, and that's better than the 24th pick in a kind of bad draft. Yes, this draft, as someone said, and shout out to you, that it is basically going to be a draft that we're going to look back on and be like, wow, a number of guys stuck around in the league. They're good role players. That's fine. You don't want just good role players, right? You want some actual talent. So there you go. I think this is a fine pick or a fine move for New Orleans, and I really like what they've done here. Denver loves the name players that fall finally off work late in the stream, in the draft, but love the Lewis pick. JD Thomas, thank you for joining us, even if it's late here. I don't think it's going to be Bol. It does sound like also that Klay Thompson is going to miss this coming season. That looks kind of sad, and I don't like seeing that. So there you go. You're going to be rooting against a lot of teams. I would assume the future pick is a first. I think the way Denver's looking at this is that they are getting what used to be a blue chip college prospect at 24 in the draft. This kind of fits in like what the Pelicans did with Frank Jackson, there we go. And where it was like, you know what? He's in the second round. He's a former top recruit coming in from high school to college. Let's take a flyer on him. This seems to be the Denver Nuggets taking a flyer on a guy who at one point, I don't think he shows it right now, but at one point showed really, really high upside. And so, yeah, if you're them, that's actually kind of a smart move, to be perfectly honest. So, future pick going to New Orleans. Yeah, we're just looking at, I'm catching up on all of this. If we trade that many, why not go for Giannis? Well, because Giannis is going to sign a supermax. They can't trade him for a year after that. And they're not going to be looking to trade him any point. Denver doesn't have a second round, a second for the next 2 years. That's fine. Like, they don't need him. You know, they're in good shape. I think this is a guy they think that can give them some depth probably in the future and maybe has a better chance of panning out than any of the other guys. Like, I just don't like RJ Hampton. It's kind of really that simple. If I was high on him, I'd be furious about this. I'm just not. And the Denver Nuggets must have been high on him, and that's okay. Again, at this point, draft boards might vary fairly wildly, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to kind of see just where they go. Yeah, pray for Clay just as a fan of the NBA. Keeping an eye on everything that is going on here. What do we get in the trade? Probably a future pick. We just don't know the specifics on it just yet, and that's okay. So everyone... Oh, no, okay. So everyone's on the Skylar Mays train, I'm assuming, here in the chat. Yeah, we only know if that it's a future pick. I can't imagine they would trade this for second-round picks. I would assume they're trading this for a future first. It's probably a lottery-protected first. Like, it probably is. That would be my guess. And that is okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I want the Warriors to lose with Clay on the court. I think that would be great. But yeah, it's going to be a future lottery protected first. This was probably a smart move for New Orleans. They kind of just can kind of move on from this draft. At this point, it starts to get fairly weak. I think at around 18 is probably when there was a real big drop-off. Maybe after Tyrese Maxey's when there was a big drop-off. So... do we move Bledsoe and or Hill or Zoe and Alexander Walker? Yeah, probably at some point all of those guys could be on the move. I think Bledsoe and Hill certainly are on the move sooner rather than later. I think in a trade for a superstar, if the Pelicans can swing that, or an all-star, they will absolutely include Lonzo Ball if it's this season, or in the future, they will include Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Everyone's focusing on the amount of guards that this team has. All of these guys aren't going to be on the team in the future, and that is an okay thing. Asset accumulation mode. You think this was better to trade 24 than drafting Woodard? Yeah, I do. Again, Woodard's expected to go in the second round. As much as I like him, I don't know if picking him at 24 would have been the move. And so if you're looking at it in terms of pure value, this is a better move than it would have been reaching and drafting a guy earlier than you should have. Boston is targeting Peyton Pritchard. That's not a bad pick. So I do think this is a good move in particular for New Orleans. Pelicans go for Brogdon to screw the Bucks. The Bucks made such a mistake with that deal. I hated that move in the beginning of it. They acted like a small market team during that time, which was not anything good. That is very disappointing for the Milwaukee Bucks that they have ended up in the exact situation that they have. If they had kept Brogdon, you probably don't have to overpay for Drew Holiday. You don't have the debacle that is Bogdanovich right now, and that is Bogdan, not Brogdon. Sorry, misread that. But that still speaks to everything we're talking about here. So yeah, I think that. The Bucks have really screwed themselves. It goes back to the Malcolm Brogdon trade. I don't know if they screwed themselves. I don't think the Pels are going to go after Bogdan. They don't have the money for him. They don't want to use it on that. They're not trying to screw them over. The picks they're getting back from the Milwaukee Bucks are probably going to outlast Giannis there, or the best years of Giannis. The picks don't kick in really for 4 years after tonight. And if he signs a 4 or 5 year deal, it doesn't really matter. Yes, we have a lot of guards on this team, but all of these guards aren't going to be here in 2 or 3 years. Keep that in mind. That is something you've got to look at with this. It's a long-term play. It's not exciting in the short term, and in the short term, it looks like this is a bit of a problem and it's just too many. But Exactly. Load up the assets, right? Load up the assets. That's what this team is doing right now. And I said in the beginning, so for people who've tuned in late, small market teams play by different rules than big market teams do. The Lakers don't play by the same rules. They play by easier rules, frankly, than the Pelicans do. The Miami Heat do. The Celtics do. Hell, even the New York Knicks, as bad as they've been, do. It's a little bit different. And so the Pelicans are are doing two things with acquiring all of these picks. One is, if there's a disgruntled superstar who wants out, Bradley Beal, maybe someone else later in the future, you've got a war chest of picks. You need picks to get superstars. And if you get the Pelicans have a ton of picks right now. That's exactly what you want to have. The other thing is, and it comes kind of twofold, and I talked about this on Locked On NBA with John Krause on the Wednesday show, which I co-host. Part of it is, you hope to get lucky in the draft. Go back to what the Philadelphia 76ers did in the process. A lot of that was draft players and hope one becomes a superstar, because you win with superstars, and that's it. Simple as that. Roll wave, by the way. I see you in there, Mike. So you win with superstars. You usually need to get a superstar if you're a small market team in the draft. More draft picks means more chances to get a superstar. You throw enough mud at the wall, you hope some of it sticks. You throw more mud at the wall, more of it might stick. It's kind of as simple as that. It's at that point, it kind of becomes just a numbers game, right? It's unsexy, it's unfun. It's how you've got to do it in a small market. The other part of it is you've got Zion, you've got Brandon Ingram. Ingram's about to get paid. Basically, in 2-3 years, Zion's about to get paid. You become a capped out team. You don't have money in free agency anymore. That team can get expensive if you need to pay Jackson Hayes, or if you need to pay Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or you need to pay Kyra Lewis Jr. All of a sudden, you're pushing luxury tax. This happened with the Thunder. All those guys were on different years, and they all came up for extensions, and the Thunder were like, we can't do this. But to fill out your roster, if for some reason you do pay some of those guys, you get it in cost-controlled assets in these future picks. You draft a guy in the first round in 2024. He's making $4 million a year for the next 4 years, and he's outplaying that contract like most good rookies do. That's tremendous value, and that's how you create a sustainable winner in a small market. And that's what New Orleans is doing with all of the asset accumulation that they're going through right now. It's a glut of guards. It's too many guards for a team that wants to win a title next year, but they're not. You're in position to acquire assets and really start thinking about the future. All right, what's the next trade? Wait, the Pistons are doing more? All right, go Pistons and having some fun in this. Feels like the Pelicans have more future picks than Gates has money. No, that is definitely not the case, and that would be closer to the Thunder that have that than the Pelicans do. Are Hill and JJ overlapping? Somewhat, but you can never have enough of those kind of, role-playing three-point shooting specialists that add veteran presence. I like J.J. Redick more than George Hill, but George Hill at 10 isn't bad per year. I think that's fine. Do I know if the Pelicans attempted to move up with 13 or 24? I've been on here, so I haven't been talking to people tonight. It wouldn't surprise me, but frankly, the highest you were probably going to get by packaging 13 and 24, if you look at a draft value chart in terms of picks, and you look at it historically, you were probably going to get to 10. And at that point, there was so much value to be had with some of those teams making those picks that if I were the Kings, I wouldn't have given that to move up to try and get Tyrese Halliburton, to get Devin Vassell if you're the Spurs and all of that. So that doesn't. They might have tried, but certainly I think teams were going to start turning them down in future years. Can we trade the swap year picks? How does that work? Not really. You might be able to, but likely you'll have an idea when you would trade those of when, which one's better. So basically the way it works is teams can't owe draft picks in consecutive years. So you can't make a trade with the Knicks. Let's just pick a team randomly and be like, we're going to get your 2021 pick and your 2022 pick. Can't do that. So you have to do a pick swap in those intermediary years. And at that point, you kind of have an idea of what those picks are going to be. I don't think you really worry about those. You can always trade them on draft night too and agree to a deal. Next pick should be at 39 for the Pelicans unless I missed a trade. And frankly, I've been talking for something like close to 3 hours, so I don't know if I'm going to make it to pick 39 with you all. I also need to record Locked On Pelicans, which is going to be more talking here. I'm not going to do it live with you guys here tonight, but we can do a live show at some point where we do it like this and do it interactive. We've had a pretty good audience in here all evening, so people will tune in. And we can do a live and interactive podcast and record it live in the moment. We will definitely do that. I need to do a little bit more prep work for tonight's show to get it out for you because I want to record it. And then it's been a long week. I want to go to bed at a certain point in the future. What kind of stupid rule is that with the consecutive years? So this is called the stipend rule, and it goes back to the Cavs' 80s, I think, maybe early 90s. I forget exactly the stipend rule. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but basically, they traded all of their future first-round picks away year after year after year, and it just decimated a team. And it's basically the NBA putting in some protection to stop teams from doing really stupid things. First-round picks, wherever they land, are unbelievably valuable in the NBA because they're on a rookie scale. You remember the NFL, when the first overall pick would, if it was a quarterback, used to be the highest paid player in the NFL basically every single year. What was the guy to the Rams out of Oklahoma? Sam Bradford, right? He was like the highest paid player in the NFL or had the most guaranteed money without ever playing a game. It was a mistake, right? Shouldn't be making that. They put this rule in because those picks are so important. Yeah, it's basically because the former Cavs owner was a moron. That cost could, on a rookie scale like this, which is now in the NFL, is unbelievable. Look at the production that a guy like Pat Mahomes was giving you relative to his contract and relative to what other QBs are making. He's unbelievably outperforming that. Happens the same thing with it. Yeah, then he got paid. Then he got paid his value. But it is, when you look at building a team in terms of value in a salary cap situation, if you can get a player at $5 million that is giving you $10 million worth of production, there's a way to distill it down to that. That's really good, right? You're underpaying a guy. So, rookies tend to do that because they have a cap on their salary. They're not on the open market in free agency where it's just this team will pay this much, this team will pay this much, so they get the best deal. Their salary is set with some of that stuff. So they keep it going on like that. Yeah, I saw McDaniels to Minnesota. We're going to wrap up in the next couple of minutes here because I need a break from talking from a few. We're probably almost out of the first round. We can definitely do more live streams like this. Clearly, I've got it set up. So we can't trade those future pick swaps until that current year. Pretty much, like the Pelicans could trade their future first, but there become some issues with that frankly, I'm not quite sure how it works because you rarely see those trades get done. And frankly, the pick doesn't convey until draft night anyway. So the Pelicans don't own, say, a Bucks pick that's a pick swap year. It's just kind of on draft night. They switch places if they can switch places. That's not something you can really trade in the future. You can maybe, have a tentative agreement with someone. But it does start to get a little bit complicated. It's why you're seeing, if you looked at this, the 24th overall pick was made by the Bucks, not the Pelicans. Because that trade isn't official yet, even though we all know it, because of the way they structure the deals. It's not official, so they don't put it on the official screen, and that's kind of how it goes with everything. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up there because I need a bit of a break. I do hope it is a 2021st 2 for 24 because more ammo next year for more lauded class and loaded class. Absolutely. If it's the 20th pick in next year's draft, better than the 24th pick in this one. So I've been going for like 3 hours talking. I need a bit of a break. Thank you all for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. We've had a really good turnout for this, I think. You'll have a show. It should be up shortly after midnight for everybody tonight. I don't know if it'll include the second round pick stuff because I'm going to try and get started on this right now. We have time to do that later in the week as well. Subscribe to Locked On Pelicans wherever you get your podcast from. If you listen 1 day a week, listen 2 days a week, listen 3 days a week. That's all a great thing. Helps me out, helps keep me doing the show. So thank you guys for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I love the interaction like this, which I don't get to do always. So we will definitely do more of these. Clearly it's working. So thank you guys for tuning in. And you guys will hear me on the podcast early tomorrow morning.